you ever heard of the Mike Flanagan movie Somnia? No? Why does one of your favorites have a movie that you've never heard of? I'm going to tell you the story and strap in because it's a wild ride. Mike Flanagan and I worked together for 20 years. We wrote dozens of scripts together, and so far you've seen 4 movies and 2 TV series from that collaboration. Our first movie together was Oculus, and you could tell by the time the cutting was going on that the movie was something special and it was about to be a real boost to our career, mostly really because of Flanagan's powerhouse editing. And if you haven't seen Oculus, shame on you. It is a great movie. Promise. And after it was clear that Oculus was going to do well, the studio started sniffing around and seeing what else we had. And what else we had was a script called Somnia, the Latin word for dreams. We were on this kick where we would have Oculus, we would have Somnia, we'd have all these Latin one-word titles, and we were really excited about building that little aspect to the universe. And, we thought Oculus was really emotional until we wrote Somnia. We wrote a story about a mother who loses her child in the worst possible way and brings in a foster child several years later with her husband in an attempt to sort of get back into life. And it becomes apparent pretty soon that that foster child has a special ability. When he sleeps, his dreams are projected all around him. You can interact with them, touch them. It's as though they're there, although we'll later come to realize they're really just memories. The problem with Somnia was that while you could interact with Cody's dreams, you could also interact with his nightmares. And his nightmares began to progressively take over the movie, the scares, and the story spine. It ultimately lands in a very emotional and raw place. If you know anything about the early stuff that Flanagan and I did together, we're definitely not afraid to get into the emotional and raw territory of horror, which is just for me the best place to live.
He likes butterflies.
I love this room.
I think you'll make wonderful foster parents.
Who's that?
That's our son, Sean.
Where is he?
He's in heaven. Try and get some sleep, Cody.
Good night.
We got a studio offer from Lionsgate almost right away, right out of the gate, and it seemed really perfect for us, except it came with one caveat. They were not going to offer Flanagan the chance to direct. Imagine that. So we rejected that offer out of solidarity to Flanagan's burgeoning directing career, because who else was going to make these movies? The scripts were so idiosyncratic, we needed that voice behind them. So we held out, and we decided to go the indie route. While we were out trying to finance Somnia in the world of indie finance, one of the strangest interludes in my entire career happened. The script for Oculus and then the movie landed in the hands of Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, and they loved what they saw, and then they read Somnia. And we got word that they wanted to meet, and they sat down with Flanagan, and afterwards there came twin offers from their 2 production companies. The exact same budget, the exact same deal, one from Will's company, one from Jada's company, and it was up to us to pick. So what did we pick? We never got to find out, unfortunately, because it turned out, because of their schedules, they needed to wait at least a year to make the movie. If you know anything about directors hate not to be on a set. There was no way coming off of Oculus that Flanagan was going to be able to restrain himself and not get right back to a set. So we passed on Will Smith. And I think just saying that sentence out loud, we passed on Will Smith, sounds completely insane. Why? Because it is. Could you imagine the residuals from a Will Smith movie? What a silly idea not to wait a year, but here we are. Ever forward is really the way you got to do it. When you feel one of these careers taking off, you want to latch on and take that ride as best as you can, and waiting a year just sounded like a death sentence at that time. Little did we know what was to come with this movie. Just between us, sometimes at night, I can still hear the voices saying, "You passed on Will Smith? What the hell's wrong with you?" So we were back out there in the world of indie financing, and the good news is it didn't last that long out there on the open market. We found the money, the production was set, everything was a go, and it looked like Somnia was going to be a real movie. Second movie within 6 months. It was an incredible feeling. The idea that Oculus could get out there in the world and Somnia would be right there behind it in theaters just a few months later felt impossible to even believe, largely because it was. There were problems right away. We had written a really big Act 3. Our Act 3 was emotionally draining in every sense of the word. the young boy's death was revisited in a real tidal wave of him being sucked underneath the water inside this enormous, dark, murky place. And there were budget problems. There were budget problems to the point that we actually ended up giving back our screenplay fee just to contribute and make sure that the movie would be made with the right amount of special effects to let that third act land. Yet, when the third act was shot, there wasn't so much a tidal wave and a dark, murky world as much as a little boy flailing around in a tub because he was promised a bunch of ice cream if he did a really good job. It just wasn't quite the same thing. Budgets are really the dream killers out there in Hollywood, much more than anything else. And then I gotta tell you, one of the coolest things ever in this entire 25-year career happened. As we were moving through production, it became known to us that Danny Elfman was going to be joining our regular team of musicians, the Newton Brothers, on this movie. Danny Elfman was going to co-write the score and co-perform the score with the Newton Brothers. It was amazing. It was a Hollywood royalty bending down to bless this little movie. And he only did it because he loved the script and he thought it was so emotional and so good. And, he certainly didn't have to do it. And there he was, and it turned out to be the longest cue of Danny Elfman's entire career, something like 14 minutes to end the movie that would be there, and it's really beautiful piece of music and just something to be so proud of, and it was really the best part of the experience. So the movie got bought by a studio, same studio that bought Oculus. It was like a burgeoning relationship. They had me in for the meeting. They were like, this is your home studio now. It felt great. Movie posters started showing up at the Grove even, which seems like a binding oral contract in California for a movie to come out, right? Started seeing it everywhere. There were international posters. People would send them to us and fan art that came out of that. It was an amazing time as the build-up for this movie and the anticipation was so exciting. And then something happened. That first release date got missed. And then the next release date got missed, and then the next one, and the next one, and before we knew it, we were caught up in some sort of bankruptcy litigation of a studio, and we were one of 4 movies that were essentially held hostage by the court system in bankruptcy for almost 3 years while we waited for the bankruptcy judge to decide whether to let our movie go or to hold on to it as an asset that they could use to pay their vendors. So we were trapped in this legal limbo, and it seemed like there was never going to be any way out. So whatever happened to Somnia? Well, the good news is it eventually got released. The bad news is it was released under the title Before I Wake. Before I Wake. Before I Wake sounded to me like a bad 90s Tori Spelling Lifetime movie. It didn't sound like something that related to our story in the least. It was literally a title that Alfred Hitchcock had personally rejected for his movie Suspicion when it came in from the studios, which I pointed out to our studio, but nobody cared. And eventually the movie came out, and look, I'm really glad that it's out there. It was a real labor of love made by people who really wanted to make that particular project and put those feelings and those emotions out there in the world. It's still, all the way up till today, the most personal thing I've ever been a part of, the stuff that revealed the most of me. You ever watch that movie? You'll see for yourself. I don't know if you'll be able to guess, but it's there. So I'm glad it exists, and I'm really grateful for everybody being here and to watch this today, and we will see you next time. Really appreciate you being here today. If you enjoyed any of this or if any of it was helpful for you, would really love it if you could like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out as we're trying to grow. We're trying to build a free, unlimited resource for screenwriters, tips, tricks, techniques, and actual live demos, all right here for free. We also have our Jeff Howard sessions, which are classes and programs and reads and consults, the information for which is available in the links down below. Hope to see you there sometime. Really enjoy being here. Thanks a lot, and good luck to all of us.